how we have all of the ducks in a row lined up to make this sutra lecture happen. And just to mention a little bit about that, I'm sitting here in the Buddha Hall in Gold Coast Dharma Realm, as you can see. It's quite a marvelous, adorned Buddha Hall. And I'm surrounded by more than 20, maybe 30 Dharma friends here live, many of whom have just arrived, coming from Malaysia, Taiwan, Singapore, other places, China, to take part in a Buddha recitation session, which is going to happen starting tomorrow morning. And in Berkeley, California, at the Berkeley Buddhist Monastery, I'm watching on the screen. Those of you here can't see this, but this is the miraculous part. There's a virtual assembly listening to the lecture tonight, made up of about the same number of Dharma friends, some of whom are hearing this entire lecture in Vietnamese by way of friendly translators sitting in the balcony here at the Berkeley Monastery. At the same time, wonder upon wonders, we have two volunteers sitting here in the Buddha Hall in Australia with me who are translating my English words into Mandarin Chinese, sending it into China via various conferencing software. So this is a 3-language lecture, Mandarin, English, and Vietnamese. And how wonderful is that happening at the same time? And it's not easy to get all this lined up. It's a gradual process of trial and error, and I'm just delighted to be part of it. I think our founder, Master Hsuan Hua, would probably approve of using whatever tools we have to turn the Dharma wheel, to bring the teachings of the Flower Garland Sutra to you. Now, we begin our lecture today. I'm going to click on a document, bring it up, and there it is on my desktop. For those of you who are watching on YouTube, because we are also live streaming. If you can see that, this is the title of the Flower Garland Sutra, Homage to the Buddha's Flower Garland Sutra of Great Expanded Teachings in the Ocean-Wide Flower Garland Assembly of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. We begin our lecture every week by chanting this title and also invoking. The ideas were welcoming, inviting spiritual presence of the sutra and the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas who brought it into the world. So,
Hi, Pastor, we lost the audio. Can you hear us? Hello. Hi, Pastor, we lost your audio. Hold on. Looks like you're on mute. Yeah, looks like you are on mute.
okay, there we go.
Good. Yes.
Good. All right. So, you will be chanting in Mandarin, and it's right there on the screen in front of you. Namo Da Fang Guang Fo Huayan Jing Huayan Hai Hui Fo Pusa. You can use the ABCs, the romanized text. Okay, and the important thing, whatever language you use, or whether you sing or don't sing, the important thing is to, in our minds, to welcome the august assembly of the Flower Garland Sutra, the Avatamsaka Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. And our teacher, Master Hsuan Hua, would say they're just waiting for us, for living beings, to invite them to come. So let's do that. Here we go. Ready? Namo Da Fang Guang Fo Huayan Jing Huayan Hai Hui Ho Pusa Namo highway, Opusa Namo Afang Guangpo Jing highway, Opusa Namo Afang Guangpo Jing Lion highway, Opusa Namo Afang Guangpo Lion highway, Opusa Afang Guangpo Lion Opusa. One more time. Namo Dafang Lion highway, Opusa. Indeed. So this is a 1931 Gibson Mandola. Definitely older than you, probably older than your father too. It's a grandfather instrument. We are going to begin our text today. With us today are many friends who maybe have never heard an Avatamsaka Sutra lecture before. I think that's very possible. So let me first give a little background about what we're listening to. This is a text that the Buddha spoke. They say that the Buddha spoke it immediately upon awakening. So that night, in fact, that he transitioned from living being to awakened living being, from Prince of India to Dharma king of the Dharma, that night, first thing he did was talk about what he could see now, what was visible to him through his brand new awakened Buddha eyes. Things look different to him, you can imagine, right? Now there's no filters. Now there's no likes and dislikes, no friends, no enemies, right? Nothing familiar, nothing strange. And from that point of view, he explained what he saw. And there's an analogy, there's a picture they give us. They say, what was it like? It's like drinking milk right from the cow. Now, does that work? Anybody grow up on a farm? Probably not many of us, right? There we go, a couple farm dwellers. So, Ben, did you ever drink milk right from the cow? Yeah, you don't have to admit it. That's all right. So,
in a dairy, we used to milk cows. The milk straight out of the cows.
Worked in a dairy, took the milk right out of the cow. Okay, here's a Hangjia, somebody who knows what he's talking about. So that analogy works for Ben. Now, when I grew up, milk came in bottles. Honestly, in Toledo, Ohio, in the 50s, there was a dairy truck, a milk truck, and he came around with horses. He actually had a horse-drawn milk truck, and the milk came in bottles. And there was a little cap on top, and you popped it open, and the milk was kind of thick, and we were milk drinkers growing up in America. So I know a little bit about this analogy as well. But to go from raw milk, many babies simply can't digest it. They may be lactose intolerant, for one. Most of the world is. But it's just too rich. And so you get the analogy. Why are we talking about milk in a Buddhist sutra lecture? because they say the Buddha's vision under the Bodhi tree immediately after awakening is too rich. People couldn't handle it all. So they say he took the teachings and put them away for a number of centuries until his disciples had meditated, had calmed their minds, had held the precepts, and transformed a lot of their troubles and worries. Then he brought the Flower Garland Sutra out, and now it made sense. Their samadhi, their stillness and clarity was sufficient for them to understand it. So that's how the tradition explains the Avatamsaka Sutra. Now, interestingly, my guess is tonight, this afternoon, here in the Gold Coast on a Sunday, the year 2019, chances are there are very few places on the planet today where people have opened the Flower Garland Sutra and said, what's in it? It's still considered raw milk. People still feel, 不好消化，听不懂，太深了, too deep, can't digest it. Better not lecture on it. That's the traditional view of this text. Now, thank goodness, our teacher, Master Hsuan, our founder, had a different view of the Flower Garland Sutra. In fact, it was so radically different that for 90 minutes of every single night for 9 whole years, Master Hua explained the Avatamsaka Sutra. Whether we wanted to listen or not, he was going to be there explaining it. Whether anybody came to help him translate or not, he was going to lecture on it. So how important is that? 9 years, 1 book, every night. Saturday, twice. Sunday, twice, right? So you get the impression, wow, this must be important if our teacher is going to emphasize it that strongly. So he not only said, you can digest it, it's good for you, you need it. He said, it's essential. This text helps you understand what's going on inside your mind and in the world around you. It's like a blueprint of the house of your life. Here's a door, here's a hallway, here's the stairway, here's a window. Now you know how to navigate your own house because you looked at the Huayan Jing, the Avatamsaka Sutra, right? It's like a mirror that shows you how you really look. That's what the Avatamsaka Sutra is, said our teacher. So, cool. I mean, he couldn't have been more emphatic about saying this text, don't leave it in the glass-covered bookcase without a fingerprint on it, with a nice embroidered cover on top of it, which is what most monasteries do, right? Open it up, put your fingers on it, don't mark it up, unless you have to, with a pencil, but then erase it. But definitely engage the sutra. Talk about it, discuss it, walk with it, right? Shoot baskets with it, knit with it. Whatever you do with your hands to keep your mind active, do those things so that the Avatamsaka Sutra can penetrate our minds like incense smoke on our bodies when we're near the censer, So that was the way he presented it. It may be raw milk for the cow, from the cow, but boy, is it nutritious to our wisdom, to what the Chinese call the Fa Shen Hui Ming, our Dharma body and our wisdom life. Okay, there we go. Are you excited? Is that enough of a sales pitch for the Flower Garland Sutra? Now, where are we in the sutra? It's long. It's 40 chapters, big text. It's suggested that if the entire sutra were put into English, every word, it might cover 100 volumes of English, maybe. We've been translating on it for years and years and years, and we're already into 30 volumes, right? We haven't even touched a third of it. So, okay, long text, we know that now. What else? What does it talk about? The main topic of the Flower Garland Sutra is Bodhisattvas. What are bodhisattvas? Well, read the sutra, find out, right? Master Hua took the bodhisattvas out of the realm of fairy tales or folklore or goody two-shoes and brought them right down into the street, brought them right down into the marketplace, brought the bodhisattvas right down into your kitchen with your mom. Master Hua explained the bodhisattvas as, I heard a wonderful phrase recently. It's, with your next act of generosity, you become a bodhisattva. Isn't that a good bumper sticker? It's like bodhisattvas are verbs, not nouns, right? You do what bodhisattvas do. It's not that, oh, I am a bodhisattva, look at me. No, as soon as you have that thought, you're not a bodhisattva. The Buddha in the Diamond Sutra makes that very clear. But through doing, through giving, through letting go, through transforming, changing habits, and learning new ways of being a better person, we do what bodhisattvas do. So bodhisattvas emerge act by act, deed by deed, word by word. So I like that. With your next generous act, you become a bodhisattva. If act after act, step after step is a bodhisattva-like service step, then in step after step we're bodhisattvas. Okay, you get that. The deal is, in the sutra, we find out how bodhisattvas speak, think, act, react to situations, and whether or not we want to do what they do and imitate them is up to us. The sutra clearly hopes we will, but the sutra, as we've been explaining it, is a lot more like a doc file, a PDF on how to build your IKEA bookshelf, right? Anybody bring home something from IKEA and unfold the instructions and page, details. Flange A fits into sprocket B, right? That's the sutra. It's a how-to do it. It's a doc file. It's a 说册, right? 说明书 in instructions, how to walk the bodhisattva path. And why do I say it that way? It's because I think there's an attitude towards sacred texts that certainly Master Hua did not advocate. And it's the attitude that a holy book is to be as much feared as it is to be absorbed. That holy books have to be, you don't want to touch them because they're pure and you're not. Not that. Master Hua encouraged us to engage with the sutra at every level. Okay, I've already said that a lot, so let's move on here. It's a better analogy, a map. I don't know, paper maps have kind of vanished, right? What do we use now? Here's our map anymore, is Google Maps, right? Or Apple Maps. In the past, if you wanted to go somewhere, you had to go to the gas station to buy a map or the roadside stop, and you unfolded it, flap, 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 and you kind of turned it this way and that way, and everybody looked over it. There we go. Oh, this is, there we are, the map. Then you tried to fold it back, remember? And it never quite folded quite right, and the map had a short life because every time you opened it, it was creased, and that's the sutra. The sutra is a map showing us the roads, the gullies, the mountains, the lakes of our nature, of our inner life, and the world around us. So, okay. Chapter 21 or 27? The Shidipin, 21还是27? I don't know. It's either chapter 21 or chapter 27. Chapter 21, I think. 21? 26, thanks, 26. Chapter 26, Shridipin, Dashabhumi. That's where we are. And we've been stuck on it. We've been working our way through it for about 6 years. One chapter. I remember, you might know, I think someone told me recently, what was the first Shridipin lecture? 2012? Something like that. Yeah, long time. And I remember being on the other side of the 10 stages chapter, the Dashabhumi, and saying, someday, if I ever get the opportunity to explain the 10 stages chapter, then we called it the 10 grounds chapter. It's not the grounds, stages. I remember saying, if I ever get the chance to explain this text, I can die that day, my life is fulfilled, That's it. That's all I need to do, and I haven't wasted my time, Well, 6 years later, we're almost done. And we've gone from stage 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 we finished. We're on 10. And the 10th stage begins in a fascinating way that I'm going to invite every one of you to join in on today. It begins with music and poetry. It's not just ordinary songs and poems. It's songs and poems sung by the gods in the heavens. And that's plural. Plural gods, plural heavens. The beginning of the 10th stage has devis, not just gods, but female gods, that is to say, goddesses, tiannu, right? Doing what? Praising the Buddha. And if you think of that for a minute, I'm looking around, and in the room here, and I'm sure in the room in Berkeley, there are a few of us who were raised in a monotheistic, Abrahamic tradition of the book, the Bible. That would be Jewish friends, Muslim friends, and Christians, Roman Catholics, Eastern Catholics. Those are the people of the book, the Abrahamic religions. Monotheists. And in that world, there was one God only. Be clear about that, right? Thou shalt have no other gods before me. And so for me to say, the music that we're about to sing together is performed by gods from the heavens would be called blasphemy. You don't mess around with blasphemy with the Hebrew God of the Old Testament. He will zap you. Your life will be miserable, right? And so if you take the 10 Commandments literally, this is impossible to celebrate multiple gods and more than one heaven. So what do you do with that? Here's what I do with that. And as I say, in this room, for people who were raised largely on the other side of the planet, who have no such crisis in their minds, there's no conflict. If you grew up in the Chinese world, where Taoism, Confucianism, Buddhism coexisted happily in harmony, what I say is, number one, there are multiple stories on the planet about what is holy. Just like there are multiple trees in the forest. I'm looking out the window at our bush forest just outside. People can see. There it is. In Australia, it's called the bush. We call it the woods or the forest. And right now, I'm looking at poplar. I'm looking at 6 kinds of gum trees. I'm looking at melaleuca, right? Tea trees. Looking at a variety of smaller shrubs, and none of them are in conflict with each other. They all manage to draw the same groundwater equally, each according to its needs, and thrive together. That particular model I find very calming and soothing and harmonious to the human condition. If we were to go out into the forest and say, one tree only, thank you very much, no other tree is allowed to grow here, I think the forest would say, there, calm yourself, go sit down until you feel better, right? That's just not reality. So I prefer a world where multiple stories thrive. That way I don't have to tell anyone else their story is false. When stories about what is holy and sacred, about how the planet is made and how to live righteously in that planet, I prefer a world where your story works for you. Those stories have roots. There are reasons why they arise, right? So let 100 stories thrive, right? Let 100 flowers bloom. So anyway, that's I just wanted to clarify that for people who are listening. And when I say, oh, the gods, plural, are singing in the heavens, I don't want to run right past that and assume you all know what it means or it's just ordinary. It's not. It's extraordinary in a world like Australia, where most folks live in a Judeo-Christian monotheistic context. This is a new story arriving with the Avatamsaka Sutra, all right? So I want to be sure that folks come to grips with the things that are being said and not push them away or just overlook them and skim across the surface. Okay, now with that in mind as the intro, let's take a look and find out what those devas are singing about. By golly, they are praising the Buddha. They are indeed. And I'm turning now, Sam, to page 6. 譬如欢诗知欢树, right? It's the second stanza. First stanza. We're going to start with 或现出家修士道, the top of page 6 and page 7. Have you got that up there? Okay, here's our technique. Our protocol here starts with Chinese, and I'm going to put my palms together as soon as I blow my nose. First, I'm going to push the cough button so I don't blow my nose around the planet at once, all right? All right, thank goodness for my cough button on my mic. Okay, we're going to read the Chinese first, and if you can't read the Hanzi, you can read the Lomaji, right, the romanization. I'll give you a line, you give it back to me. Ready, everybody? 或现出家修士道，或现道场成正觉，或现说法或涅槃，普使十方无不睹。Good, good, good. Coming right over here. I'm sliding the English over. I do half and half. It's bigger that way. Okay, now I'm going to invite everybody to recite along with me. And if this is the first time you've recited in English together, this is very interesting. We can put our palms down for just a second. I want to make a point about this because reading in unison is a wonderful practice. And when during your day do you get invited to read with other people in unison? The answer is probably never, right? Too bad, because it's really fun to hear these words come out of many mouths, 异口同音, many mouths with a single voice in unison, and share that experience. It's when we do it more, our minds move together. It's really true that people with the same cadence of breath and the minds firing off together, we merge. It's a very fascinating, kind of like a musical chorus without the music. And it's free of charge. I think it's a very exciting moment. But there are some rules. Rules of the road, which is what? Punctuation is your friend. The commas, the semicolons, the periods, the white spaces, they tell us where to breathe and where to pause. Right? There's some people who want to show off how good their reading skills are, and they just read right along. Rah, 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 rah. Stop. We know you read very well. Read with your ears as well as your eyes and your mouth, please. Which is to say, listen to the person to your right and to your left, in front of you and behind you as you read. The idea being harmony. Harmony. Not reading, you don't have the experience. Reading too loud, other people can't have the experience. Just loud enough so that your voice is part of it, and follow the commas. Follow the white space, breathe right there, and then we have yi ko, tung yin, many mouths, but with a single voice. Okay, ready to try it? You want to try it? This is fun. Here we go. We're going to start he might appear. Ready? He might appear to leave the home life and walk the world's paths, comma, or appear in the Bodhimanda, realizing right awakening, semicolon, breathe. He may show himself speaking Dharma or entering nirvana, comma, so all in the 10 directions, without exception, can see. Very nice. Very nice. Okay, these are what? This is a song. I'm going to slide up. Sam, I'm going to go up to page 5. All the exquisite Deva maidens. Take a look here. I'm going to go left to the Chinese. Tianzhu Cainu, right? Okay, all those who can read the Chinese, look at this. Tianzhu Cainu, Wu You Liang, Mi Bu, Huan Xin Gong Yang Fo, Ge Zhou Zhong Zhong Miao Yue Yin, Xi Yi Ci Yan, Er Zan Tan, right? What is it saying? Look. All the Deva maidens, limitless in number, goddesses, rejoiced, every one of them, as they made offerings to the Buddha. They all played marvelous music of many kinds and praised the Buddha with the following words. What is that? That's the prelude to a song. We're going to hear the gods, female gods, sing, known as goddesses, right? How cool is that? Sacred text, Buddhist Sutra, we're listening to the music of the heavens. Without the melody. Oops, well, close. The poetry of the heavens, right? Wouldn't it be nice if we could hear the do, wo, da, da. What would it sound like? A Gibson mandola? Probably not. At least not played by me, right? What would it sound like? Maybe? Some people say it would sound like Johann Sebastian Bach, that he's about as close as you get to Deva music. I don't know. Anyway, this is music from the heavens. What do they say? I'm going to read straight through. I'll just do it my speed. I'm going to start on page 5 and go down in the English, okay, so you can hear. Here's what they say. The Buddha sits in repose in a single land, yet his bodies appear in all worlds everywhere. His physical hallmarks are majestic and limitless in number as they fill the great expanse of the Dharma realm. From a single pore on the skin, he sends forth bright lights that dispel, that's a typo, that dispel the darkness of being's afflictions everywhere. One could count the fine motes of dust in lands, but the quality of those lights could not be known. Quantity of those lights could not be known. Okay? One might see the thus come one, replete with every hallmark, turning the wheel of Dharma, unsurpassed and right. One might see him traveling to Buddha kshetras, or see him calm and serene, calm and still, unmoving and serene. I'll get there. He might appear abiding in the Tushita heaven palace, or appear to enter his mother's womb. He might appear to rest in the womb or being born. In limitlessly many worlds, he makes appearances as these. And we catch up to today's text. Here it is. He might appear to leave the home life and walk the world's paths, or appear in the Bodhimanda, realizing right awakening. He might show himself speaking Dharma or entering nirvana, so all in the 10 directions, without exception, can see. All right, he might appear as a kookaburra. There. What's going on here? Okay, let's take a break. And what are they singing about? They're praising the Buddha using a scheme called Ba Xiang Cheng Dao, realizing the Dao, the way, in 8 hallmarks. Which is to say what? This is called a list. This is a Ming Xiang, a list that appears frequently in Buddhist texts. So what that means to me is it's, the word we use for it now is a meme, M-E-M-E, a meme, right? It's a pattern that is rooted in our nature. It doesn't come from outside. It's as inherent in part of being human as duality. Night follows day, follows night, follows day. That's a pattern, right? The binary nature of the rotation of the earth, right? Why do we have night and day? Because we're spinning on our axis. It's not that the sun goes anywhere, we turn. That's a meme, that's a pattern, right? That's just part of having a body on the planet. Likewise, these lists in Buddhism are equally hardwired. Four Noble Truths, Eightfold Path, 12 Links of Conditioned Awakening, the 100 Dharmas of the Sarvastivadins, right? The 4 methods of attraction, the 4 kinds of eloquence, the 5 roots, the 5 powers, the 7 wings of awakening. All these lists that appear throughout the Buddha Sutras come not because the Buddha was a mathematician or he wanted to give us a test at the end of the lecture to see how many we knew, right? There'll be a quiz. It's not a quiz. It's because these lists of items are actually there and can be used if we want to go beyond what? Chaos. What is chaos? Well, cause and effect is mostly chaos. It's random. Things that just appear, they're chaotic, right? I watch, for example, lorikeets. Here, we have these beautiful rainbow-colored birds in Australia. They're true parrots. And when it's time for the lorikeets to come and eat, it's chaotic. I don't think any mathematician could figure out which lorikeet is going to land on which edge of the bowl at what time. Yesterday I saw something fascinating. I saw a turkey chase the lorikeet away for the first time. We have these huge bush turkeys. Each one of them weighs maybe 12 pounds, unless it's a drought, which it is now, and they weigh 10 pounds. They're skinny in the drought time. But they're large birds. You'd have to use 2 hands to hold a bush turkey. The lorikeets, you could hold them, you can. They sit in the palm of your hand, but they are ferocious and chase away the turkeys that are 30 times larger. Well, yesterday I saw this boss turkey come out of the woods and chase away the lorikeet. He just stood his ground and pecked until the lorikeet retreated. And it's chaos. Who won the wrestling match? Well, in this case, the turkey won. Who could have predicted it? We don't know, right? In the midst of the chaos of reality, these lists of Buddhist terms are non-chaotic. They are orderly. They repeat. They sustain themselves through the coming into being of the planet, its establishment, its demise, its void, going back to nothing and coming back again. That's, what do we call them? Dharmas. These are capital D Buddha Dharmas, right? So we have one right here. That's I just did a riff on why 8 Baxiang Chengdao, 8 hallmarks of Buddhas, because according to the sutra, whenever a Buddha comes into the world, that's one step in a lifetime of the Buddha. Now, what are the 8 things? I'm going to confuse it further. There are different lists, right? Different lists. But let me point out the ones we just heard. We'll start with the ones we got and then extrapolate. How's that? Check it out. First one. We might see, say the devas, the goddesses, you could see the Buddha with all his wonderful appearance turning the wheel of Dharma. It's the Wushang Falun, the unsurpassed, and Zheng Falun, the right Dharma. Or you could see him going around to various lands. Or you could see him sitting in samadhi, the way, notice our Buddhas on the altar here. I'm showing the audience in Berkeley our 3 wonderful Tathagatas here. And if I could turn the camera around for everybody here, I would show you the 3 wonderful Buddhas that arrived in Berkeley from the Ming Dynasty 500 years ago. Ben, you have to come see them. Kevin, you got to come see our Buddhas. They're extraordinary, 500-year-old images. They're just superb. That's calm and still, unmoving and serene, right? Now, turning the Dharma wheel is one of the first of the Buddha's hallmarks, the 8 hallmarks, Baxiang Chengdao, through which they accomplish the way. Appearing to live in the Tushita heaven. That's number 2. Every Buddha, before he arrives, spends time in the heavens, getting ready. What is this Buddha lore? L-O-R-E. This is the way the story is taught. This is how Buddhas happen, according to the tradition. Interesting, right? Folklore. Buddhist lore. Next, what happens? He ru tai. He enters his mother's womb. A pristine birth. Next, he zhu tai, stays in his mother's womb till the right time to be born, and then chu tai comes out. All right, so what do you make of that? Moms are important in Buddhism. What's the Buddha's mother's name? Lady Maya, Moya Furen. She's a fascinating figure who what? Dies in childbirth. Oh my Lord. How about that? In the Buddha's story, some would say the Buddha's legend, his mother passes away as he arrives. Why is that part of the story? That's so interesting, right? And she gets reborn in the heavens, and the Buddha goes up later to speak Dharma for her, speaks about Earth-Store Bodhisattva. That's another part of the story. Okay, so how interesting. The mom has tragedy in the Buddha's legend. There you go. It's a very human narrative. We can relate, right? Okay. In limitlessly many worlds, the Buddha shares these hallmarks. So, he turns the wheel of Dharma. That's out of order. That's actually number 6. Okay? So, he stays in the Tushita heaven, enters his mother's womb, stays there, and is reborn. Comes out. Okay, what's next? He chujia, leaves home. He departs from the love and the comfort and the familiarity and the ease and the kitchen, the refrigerator of his home. All those things that are hard to set aside, right? I told that wonderful story. We have a wonderful story about David Rounds, late Dharma protector David. He always said he wanted to leave home. David was a Harvard-trained translator and novelist, right? He wrote fiction. He was also a journalist and a newspaper editor, other things. So one day, Master Hua, in an evening lecture, said, "David, what's on your mind?" David said, "Shifu, I want to leave home," he said. So Master Hua said, "Well, did you ask your wife's permission? Did you ask Sue whether it's okay?" Sue was sitting right there. She said, "Fine, take him. The sooner the better." "He's yours," she said. Everyone, ha, 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 you know. Okay, so Master Hua, big smile, says, "Well, Guozhou, David," right? That's his Dharma name, Guozhou. Well, so the next day, sure enough, here comes David Rounds with a suitcase in this hand and an Oxford English dictionary in the other hand, right? Translator, editor, newspaper. He couldn't do without his Oxford English dictionary. He had the one that had wheels on a cart that you read with a magnifying glass, because it's, you know, it's like how many volumes. So it was a pull toy Oxford dictionary with a magnifying glass because the print was tiny. Here's David. Oh boy, we got David Rounds in Gold Mountain Monastery. So one day passes and he's there doing all the meditation, you know, and he's great, translating at night. And the second day, you see he's struggling a little bit and still getting there. Comes to ceremonies. The third morning, no David Rounds. We went to his room. Oh, his room's empty, right? No Oxford English Dictionary. No David. So we don't see him for a week. And then a week later, David kind of, you know, if he was a dog, he would have had his tail between his legs, right? He sneaks in, and Master Hua goes, "Oh, Guozhou? Oh, 你怎么样啊? How are you, David? Everything okay?" And genuinely concerned, you know. So David says, "Yeah, well, Shifu, I tried." He says, "Yes, you did. Yes, you did. What was the problem?" And David said, "Well, I could put down my wife. That wasn't so hard. I could put down almost everything except, I'm a little embarrassed to say it, but it's toast and tea and the New York Times at breakfast." Pambasha, right? It couldn't put down. The bottom line is, for David, was the comfort of the New York Times in the morning and tea and toast. That was his habit. And so everyone else reflected, yeah, what's mine? What's my bottom line? When it came right down to it, what would pull me back out of the monastery, right? So Shifu said, yes. He said, yes. I kind of thought that might be the problem, because you see, a lot about David and cultivation is fiction. He's a novelist, he said. So, 他有多少修行方面多少像一个小说一样的，他是作家嘛, he said. So, is very kind, compassionate, loving comment about his disciple Guozhou. And David went on to retranslate the Shurangama Sutra. So if you have our new edition of the Shurangama Sutra, he and a committee, Ron Epstein and a committee of other translators, were responsible for bringing that sutra up to speed. So anyway, what a wonderful moment to realize that it's not easy to leave home. What is it that we can't really put down? Oh boy. So that's a good question. And I, have to ask myself that too. So he might appear to leave the home life and walk the world's paths. That's one of the 8 hallmarks of leaving home. He might appear in the Bodhimanda, 成正觉. That's one of the hallmarks, is awakening. In other words, the Buddha's enlightenment, right? That's one of the hallmarks. Now, what else? Zhuan Fa Lun, there it is again. We had it here in Turning the Wheel of Dharma. We have it here, Speaking Dharma. Then Entering Nirvana, Ru Nieppan. Now, one of the lists of the Ba Xiang Cheng Dao that I know has Xiang Mo, Xiang Fu Mo Wang, subduing the demons. That actually happens before realizing right awakening. Okay, so there's different numbers of the 8, but they're usually 8, almost always. That's the list. He might appear speaking Dharma, entering Nirvana, and so all in the 10 directions without exception can see. There's another item on the 8 that I've seen before, which is Fanbu Sholi, circulating Sharira. So the relics that occur after the Buddha's body is cremated get distributed. So that's yet another one of the hallmarks. Okay, so far so good, right? So what are we doing now? We've looked back at the context of the praises sung by the Devis, the exquisite Deva maidens. We've seen the things they're praising. What are they singing about? They're singing about the Buddha. The Buddha is so cool. They mention his 8 hallmarks, but it's not the standard list. That's okay. We can recognize what they're talking about. And these are the things that every Buddha does on his way to becoming a Buddha and then passing away, as our own Buddha, Shakyamuni, did. All righty. Sam, I'm going over to page 6, stanza number 2. Piru Huanshi, right? Okay, let me give you a line, you give it back to me. Ready? Here we go. Piru Huanshi zhi Huanshu, 在于大众多所作，如来智慧亦复然，于世间中普现身。Okay. English, let's use our new skills of reading together. Watch the commas, watch the white space. Ready? Here we go. Together. Just as a magician who is skilled in illusion can make things appear before your eyes, the Tathagata, with his wisdom, in a similar way, can reduplicate his bodies everywhere throughout the world. All right. So this is the next verse the Devis are singing. The heavens hit parade. They're saying the Buddha is like a magician who is good at making illusions appear. And he can go poof and make you see things, and then poof and take them away. Right? The famous one is a rabbit comes out of the hat. Right? Oh, he takes the hat and he shows you it's empty. You all see the hat is empty, and then reaches in, oh, here comes a rabbit. A white rabbit. Oh, how wonderful, right? And did you have an uncle? I had an uncle who was good at tricks, and he would reach into my ear and pull out a coin. Right? Did you have an uncle who did that? Did he give you the coin afterwards, if he's a good uncle? Right? $5 bill, oh, here, He would he'd do this and then reach over and my ear, and whoop, oh. And I'd go for the other ear, How much do I have here? So, like a magician who can make things appear. So the Buddha is like that. With his wisdom, in a similar way, what does he make appear? His body. Like, science can't answer that one, right? He can make his bodies appear. And when I got to Buddhism, that was the first time I'd ever heard this idea of the San Shan Pa, or the three bodies, the Trikaya, the three-body doctrine, that the Buddha has three bodies operating all at once. And one of those three bodies is Hua Shan, also known as Ying Shan, transformed bodies. And what are they? It's amazing that the Buddha has the ability to make an entire body appear according to what you need to hear to encourage you to cultivate. You can do that. And, my mind, where does my mind go immediately? Oh, does that body have a driver's license, social security number, passport? Does that body have to buy a ticket when it gets on the airplane, flying in from Kuala Lumpur, Does that body does it eat pizza? What size shirt does that body wear, etc. I try to drag it down into the mundane to try to grasp it, If that body is sitting beside you, can you talk to it? Can you be friends with it? Does that body have to take a shower, So I try to extend my mind out to it to kind of figure out what in the world a reduplicated body would be. What does it say? 于世间中普现身, in many worlds, not just once, but multiple worlds, 普现身, can make bodies appear everywhere. What is that about? Well, you have to say magic. How do you explain it? The Avatamsaka Sutra would say, no magic at all, it's built in. You can do it. I can do it. It's part of our nature once it's awake. How about that? Okay, how do you explain a magician making a rabbit appear out of a hat? Well, obviously, the hat had a false bottom. There was a rabbit all crouched down in there waiting. Is it time yet? Not yet. Okay. Now? Not yet. Okay. The rabbit's in there, You lift, there's a rabbit. There, right there. So it seems like the rabbit came out of nowhere. It came out of the hat. The skillful magician could make it work, right? Card tricks, right? He says, pick a card, and it's the right card, and he couldn't have known, right? Magicians can do that. Well, the sutra would say that in our nature, seems like magic. It's not. It's called cultivation. It's called uncovering the wisdom that's already there. You don't have to add a rabbit to make reduplicated bodies. I don't understand it. It's okay to not understand it. What is it called? 不可思议, right? Totally amazing. Inconceivable that the Buddha can do this. So the sutras say every Buddha can do it. Who else can do it? Guanyin Bodhisattva, Guanyin Pusa. Right? Guanyin Pusa can do it too. They say, says the sutras. So I remember I was in Taipei, and it was a Guanyin Qi. We were in a place called Muzha in Taipei City, Taipei County, Taipei Xian. And it was rainy and wet. Oh, cold. During the break time, the monks had nowhere to rest except kind of a corridor behind a curtain on a stage in a high school. And the wind whistled through, and we all got colds. Every one of us got sick. Kind of like now. It's like the voice was gone, right? You have to step on the gas, and there's no gas. You just can't talk. So we were in trouble because from what was it, 3:30 to 5, 3:30 to 4:30, it was the monk's job to 讲开示, to talk. It was the break time from the chanting. We'll be doing it tomorrow, but it's an Amitabha session. So there we were in Taipei. There were, 5 monks and 5 nuns. Every one of us was like, oh. And so it was time to speak. What do we do? So we said, well, maybe we can ask the lay people for Guanyin response stories. Guanyin Pusa de Lingang Gushi. I said, this is Taiwan. Everybody's got a story. Almost everyone. So we said, came out, it was our turn to speak. And you know how it is with Chinese audiences, right? You all know. If you say to a Chinese audience, doesn't matter if it's Malaysia or Taiwan or China or Hong Kong or San Francisco, you say, okay, who would like to tell a story about their encounter with Guanyin? Everybody goes, right away, not me, not me, not me. And that's courtesy, it's li, because why? Suppose your dad is here. You can't talk over your father. Suppose your mom is here. You might embarrass, you don't dare, That's really graceful, right? It's 一种礼貌, right? So, on this day, we said, nobody here is able to speak. The lay people have to do it. So we said, 不知道有没有谁能讲一个观音菩萨灵感故事吗? Right? Can't speak. Anybody have a Guanyin Bodhisattva story? Oh, all over the room, hands went up. I do. I have a Guanyin Bodhisattva story. It was amazing what happened, And we thought, who wants, you be first, you're second, you're third, okay, please, Please tell. And out came these wonderful, amazing stories about how Guanyin Bodhisattva, they were sure, had appeared in the body of a police officer on a dark night in the rain to take them safely back home when they were lost. Here was Guanyin Bodhisattva appeared as a lifeguard pulling them out of the swimming hole where they were about to drown, and they knew it was Guanyin, right? And so there were stories, and after a while, we thought, wow, we're going to do this again tomorrow, We took note, and we came back with all these wonderful Guanyin Bodhisattva stories. And you say, oh, well, that's Taiwan. They've been Buddhist for a long time. I want to tell a Guanyin Bodhisattva response story from Sacramento, California. And this happened with Dharma Master Heng Lai. People know, right? My Dharma brother. In the early days of City of 10,000 Buddhas, Heng Lai was the go-to guy for getting supplies. And City of 10,000 Buddhas was this huge, huge former state hospital for the criminally insane, right? And 70 buildings and hundreds of acres. So we needed lots of stuff. And the U.S. military and the California National Guard would have auctions. If they had bulk ordered paint and the job was done and they had 100 cans of paint left over, they would auction it off, and they'd post in the newspaper, oh, military auction, come, get a bargain, but you have to take all the paint. You can't buy a can, So Dharma Master Lai was the one who would always go check out the auctions, and we got some amazing equipment, bulldozers and, road levelers and things like that. So sure enough, what was being auctioned was paint thinner this time. And we had an old Chevrolet van. And this van was the one that had the engine was inside the cab, just to the right of the driver, with a, and to fix it, you'd prop the lid up, and the mechanic would have to lean over the seat to repair. So it was an old Chevy van. I think the van might have been bought at an auction earlier. He was driving this old van, and it was in bad repair, and the battery had a faulty terminal. So Dharma Master Lai went to the auction and bought a van full of paint thinner, maybe 30 cans, all stacked up, and a couple of the cans maybe had a loose cap on it. And paint thinner, right, is one of the most volatile, flammable substances you can possibly imagine. So the whole back of the van was full of paint fumes, and he had to open the side windows to let the fumes out. And he's driving along, coming back at night, and he's on Highway 85, going Highway 80, going west from Sacramento back to City of 10,000 Buddhas. And sure enough, guess what? The battery sparks at the cable. And he's driving along, and it's on the right side in America, not the left side like Australia, right? He's watching the battery start to spark, heading towards the paint thinner in the back of the van. Dharma Master Lai is about to turn into a four-wheeled bomb on the highway, right? And the sparks are spark. And he's like, oh no, I've got to pull over. And there was nowhere to pull over. He was right in the lane. He had to drive ahead to find a place to pull over. And on one hand, he was panicking because one spark and the entire van would have just turned into a flaming piñata, And so, on the other hand, he couldn't pull over because there was the guardrail was right there. So he's driving, and I better speed up so I can get to, and he sees in the rearview mirror, like this, red and blue lights, highway patrol, right? So there's the pull off. He pulls over, and it wasn't the highway patrol. It was a park ranger in a park ranger's pickup truck who pulled right over behind him, jumped out, pulled Heng Lai out of the van, reached in with a fire extinguisher, and put out the battery spark. And said, "Be more careful next time, idiot." Jumped in his truck and drove away. Right? And Heng Lai is like, what just happened? What happened? Right? And so he walked up to the exit to a late night gas station, made a phone call to City of 10,000 Buddhas and said, "Is Shifu still awake?" It was late at night. Master Hua picked up the phone. "Zamyang, go hui." Heng Lai says, Shifu. He said, I almost blew up. Zamyang, what happened? What are you doing? Said Master Hua. So Heng Lai tells him the story. Shifu says, "Did you bow to him?" "Who, Shifu?" "Guanyin Bodhisattva. You didn't recognize her." Oh my God, maybe she's still there, Heng Lai no. So he says, "No, Shifu, I didn't." "Stupid." He said, "Hurry home." Click, So Heng Lai went back to the truck, and AAA came and towed the truck, luckily. So what do you know? What do you make of that story? On one hand, it's because Dharma Master Lai ordinarily recited the name, Guanyin Bodhisattva, right? That wasn't an accident. He recited the Great Compassion Mantra every morning. And so he already had yuanfen, had conditions with Guanyin Bodhisattva. But number two, even then, how did this park ranger wearing the hat, right, the Smokey the Bear hat, how did he show up right on time with a fire extinguisher in his hand? He didn't even ask. He just showed up with the fire, It's like somebody was watching over the monk. That's Guanyin Bodhisattva. 应以何身得度者，即现何身而为说法. Whatever body is needed to solve the problem, that's the body that Guanyin appears to speak the Dharma, even in the body of a park ranger with a fire extinguisher, right? So, how interesting. True story. You know, really happened in Sacramento, California. So, Guanyin Bodhisattva, also, like our Bodhisattva in the Sutra, when the time comes, just as a magician who is skilled in illusion can make things appear before your eyes, the Tathagata, with his wisdom, in a similar way, can reduplicate his bodies everywhere throughout the world. How about that? Okay. Now, we've been doing something quite interesting in... we've been singing the sutra. It's a song, okay? So why not do it in English? If the devas can sing it in deva language, the humans can sing it in human language. So here's what we do. It's in pentatonic. And basically, it's a recitative. Now, where did I learn this? I confess, I learned it from a Catholic monk. Father Cyprian Concilio, the prior of New Camaldoli, Benedictine Hermitage, uses this melody for the Psalms. And it's a psalm tone, it's called. And I don't do it right. I kind of mess it up. But it works for a Buddhist sutra as well. So it goes like this. Sam, I'm starting with... let's go back to the Buddha sits in repose. Let's go back to page 5. And we'll sing down to the verse we just read about the magician and his illusions. So, everybody in Berkeley ready to sing? Jin Chuan, sure you can lead them, right? Jin Wei, sure you can lead everybody? Here's our pitch. Da 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 dum dum. Da 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 dee 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 da dum. Da da dee da 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 dee da da dum. Da 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 dee da 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 dum. Simple, right? It's just putting a little bit of musical wrapping on the text. It activates the right brain and the left brain at the same time. So here we go. Ready? The Buddha sits in repose in a single land, yet his bodies appear in all worlds everywhere. His physical hallmarks are majestic and limitless in number as they fill the great expanse of the Dharma realm. All right, so far so good. From a single pore of the skin, he sends forth bright lights that dispel the darkness of being's afflictions everywhere. One could count the fine motes of dust in lands, but the quantity of those lights could not be known. Ready? One might see. Here we go. One might see the thus come one, replete with every hallmark, turning the wheel of Dharma unsurpassed and right. One might see him traveling to Buddha's kshetras, or see him calm and still, unmoving and serene. We're doing great. This is terrific. Ready? Let's put him up in the heavens. Here we go. He might appear abiding in the Tushita heaven palace, or appear to enter his mother's womb back on earth, right? He might appear to rest in the womb or being born. In limitlessly many worlds he makes appearances as these. Let's let him leave home now. Here we go. He may appear to leave the home life and walk the world's paths, or appear in the Bodhimanda, realizing right awakening. He may show himself speaking Dharma or entering Nirvana. So all in the 10 directions without exception can see. How about the magician? Last one, here we go. Just as a magician who is skilled in illusion can make things appear before your eyes, the Tathagata, with his wisdom in a similar way, can reduplicate his bodies throughout the worlds. Okay, here we go. Well, when was the last time you sang the Avatamsaka Sutra with your friends? Probably never, right? Well, it's the first time for everything. So we have coming up next week, we have the Buddha abiding in the deep and true nature of Dharma. We have a story about the Dharma nature. We have some instructions about leaving behind false discriminations. And that's the last of the praises of the Devis, the goddesses. Following that, the sutra begins. Vajra Treasury Bodhisattva says, okay, well done. You praised the Buddha, you invoked his presence. Let's get on with the 10 stages. In the Dharma, the 10 stages. We've been explaining this now, the 10th stage, for 5 weeks. We just started. And I really can't predict how long it'll be before we're done. There's a conclusion to the chapter, a summary. There are verses that repeat the text, the prose text. And that's the end of the chapter 26, the 10 stages. This is really the penultimate stage of the 10. Because the Bodhisattva, who's our hero, right, the role model, he's our, you could call him our template Bodhisattva. He's our prototype. He is, at that point, very close to Buddha, to the Buddha in wisdom, just like Earth Store, Earth Treasury, Tizampusa, he's a 10th stage Bodhisattva. So it's a challenging piece of text because it's really like graduation. And it's not so simple to reach over to it and say, oh yeah, me too, I could do that too, right? Because he's just about ready to become a Buddha. But that's our work, that's our job, that's what we will be doing as we explain this text. So, okay, now's the time I say, anybody here in the Gold Coast, anybody there in Berkeley have questions or comments? Jin Chuan, what, you want to look around and encourage anybody to ask a question if they've got one? Jinfo Shi, Jinwei Shi.
There's a question from online.
Okay, question online, Jerry. What have we got?
So the question is, why do Bodhisattvas need to postpone their Buddhahood when they can liberate sentient beings even after becoming a Buddha, just like Amitabha Buddha and Medicine Master Buddha?
One more time, please. Ask it again.
Why do Bodhisattvas need to postpone their Buddhahood?
Okay, stop. Why do Bodhisattvas need to postpone their Buddhahood?
When they can liberate sentient beings even after becoming a Buddha.
When they can liberate sentient beings even after becoming a Buddha.
Just like Amitabha Buddha or Medicine Master Buddha.
Just like Amitabha Buddha or Medicine Master Buddha. The quick answer is, I don't know. I'm not a bodhisattva, and your question demonstrates a certain amount of what's called sophistry. What was my clue? The word need. Why do bodhisattvas need to do this? Bodhisattvas don't need to do anything except fulfill their vows. So, not going to fall for it. I don't know. When I become a bodhisattva, I'll let you know, all right? With my next act of generosity. Okay. Got more questions, Jerry?
That's all from online for now.
That's all from online. Okay. Jinchuan, anything? Shifu would say, 谁有什么问题没有啊？你们大家如果没有问题，我就要问问题哦。Yes, what have you got? Nothing. No takers, right?
We can make a comment that the sound is really, really good, actually. All the sound that came through the guitar was, or the instrument was
Mandola.
Clear. Mandola was very clear.
Wowee.
Video
the sound was really, really clear.
Yeah, sound is very good.
Okay, well, that's a victory for Zoom. And we set that up before the lecture with Cliff and Sam and Jerry. Okay, that's a comment. Good. Anybody in the balcony? Any questions? Nope. Were you all singing along with the devas? Da da dee da da dee da dum. Hope so. Okay. I want to turn my computer so you all can see in Berkeley who is here. Oops. That was my power cable. That's okay. I don't need that. Look at all. Let's see. I need to put our windows up so I can see myself. There we go. Look at all our Dharma friends here from Malaysia. I don't know if you can see. There, many, many Dharma friends who have come to the Gold Coast to join in our...
Master, you have to turn that light off because all we see is the screen.
know, you can't
the
see
whole
what's
thing is everyone's like shadow.
Everybody's in the shadow.
We can see some
There
people now.
These are the guys.
Oh, there's Jing Hosher.
Christian Husher. You can see him.
Well,
Berkeley Monastery reunites online. Here we go. Okay, so those are all our men Dharma friends. They couldn't see you because of the light. You're all in the shadow. But there's like 3 times as many Xinnu as there are Shannan. So, yeah, this is one of those moments when Gold Coast Dharma Realm is going to come into its best, what do you say? It's going to fulfill its role, going to fulfill its function here. For a week, we're going to be reciting the Buddha's name. We're also going to pray for rain, and we're also going to do the Yoming Jie, precepts for the deceased, at the end. So Jin Husher is going to be our Dharma host. I'm going to be the Dharma speaker every night, and I'll come with packs of Kleenexes, ready to embarrass myself by blowing my nose every chapter. What are you pointing? Oh, hacks. You got some hacks. Good. Yes, that'll help. Good indeed. All right. Well, with that in mind, I want to invite everybody to come back next week to hear the conclusion of the Deva's praises. maybe we'll have more text ready, processed to dive into. Jerry, how many people online today? How many people on YouTube, that is to say? I'm online, right?
65.
25?
65.
65, okay. Cliff, how many do we have in China? 41. Wow, it's coming up. Good. 各位欢迎你们来上网收听研究一起就说入披露着那信海 Yeah. A friend in Taiwan just notified me about something I want to learn more about. It's a movie that was released recently called 跟着华严经去旅行. Anybody know about that? 有没有人知道? It's apparently, I don't know the details, but I just saw it. Traveling with the Avatamsaka Sutra. Apparently, somebody correct me, but it looks like it's Korean nuns who needed to reprint the Huayan Jing, and they went to Taiwan. Apparently, that's what I know. And they made a movie about it, and the movie won lots of awards. So I just found out about it this morning, and I checked out on, in the time that I had on YouTube. 跟着华严经去旅行. People look it up, because anybody in the world who is investigating the 大方广佛华严经, we should find common cause with and make friends with. Master Minghai Da Heshang in Shijia Bailin Si is explaining the Huayan Jing week by week. So I know about his work and support it 100%. Our Dharma brother Jin Fan Shi in Liu Gui Huayan Sheng Si, Fa Jie Sheng Si, explains the Avatamsaka Sutra every day online. So every week, because every day is a different text. So that's really a heroic vow to make that happen. But I'd like to find out more about our nuns who are supporting. There's a brief YouTube preview of that movie, and all these different faces going, 不可思议,真的,不可思议,不可思议,不可思议, they say. Inconceivable. So they know that much. Alrighty, time to transfer the merit. And I would encourage people, wherever you are in the world, if you have nothing else to transfer the merit to, please transfer the merit to more water in the world, more rain. We need rain in the Gold Coast. Everything is dry and stressed to the max here. I put out a bowl of water on my porch, and I saw all the birds come. Dip their beaks in, run it down, dip their beaks in, run it down. In my new bowl of, not a bird bath, but a drinking bottle. If you live in Queensland or New South Wales, don't forget the dry, thirsty birds. Put out some water. They will thank you. California needs rain terribly. Life and property are in the balance. So wherever you are, please dedicate to the Dragon Kings with the wish that more water, less fire in the world, right? Of course, it's up to you how you want to transfer your merit. May every living being, our minds as one and radiant with light, share the fruits of peace with hearts of goodness, luminous and bright. If people hear and see how hands and hearts can find in giving unity, may our minds awake to great compassion, wisdom, and to joy. May kindness find reward. May all who sorrow leave their grief and pain. May this boundless light dispel the darkness of their endless night. Because our hearts are one, this world of pain turns into paradise. May all become compassionate and wise. May all become compassionate and wise. Do it again. May all become compassionate and wise. May it be so. Okay, Jin Chuan Shi, after we say goodbye, you want to make the announcements in Berkeley to everybody so they can know what's going on? I'm going to leave our webcast and bow with everybody here. We'll see you all next week. Ami Tofo, everybody. Bye-bye.
Okay, so how about we do the announcements quickly as the screen goes up? I don't know if you can put the screen up, Jerry. So this, actually tomorrow, we're going to begin the Emperor Liang Repentance at Gold Sage Monastery. So if people want to join the 1 week repentance down in San Jose, you can do that. Jing Forsher and myself will go in the morning to kind of help out and transmit the 8 precepts. And so people are welcome to join that as well. I believe they start something like at 6:30ish or 7, so it starts really early. The precepts are actually transmitted at 7:30 a.m. We also have during Thanksgiving weekend at Berkeley Monastery a 3-day Amitabha session. So Friday, Saturday, Sunday. We'll also transmit the 8 precepts on Friday at 8 a.m. Saturday and Sunday we'll start the program at 8:30, going to about 4:30. And what else? Anything else? Amitabha session at 16,000 Buddhas, December 7th to the 14th. So that's the second week of December. Yeah, Professor Verhoeven, Dr. Martin Verhoeven, he'll be lecturing the Avatamsaka Sutra Friday night. So if people want to come for that, you can do that. We'll have all our regular programs next week. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, same schedule. Tuesday nights, Jing Fosho, you recite the Buddha's name? Yeah. Tuesdays are an event? The Dharma recovery? I'm not sure. Gene Weisha, do you know? Okay, so if the fourth Tuesday, I think we have the Dharma recovery group here at the monastery. So no Buddha recitation. Okay, so how about we all bow to the Buddhas and wish everyone a good evening, a safe drive home.